Hi everyone, welcome to another LiveSafe Tool video. The purpose of this video will be to learn to use the software, more specifically to learn to use the missed opportunity tool. The concept behind the missed opportunity tool is available in a separate video, which I would recommend you to watch prior to this video. For the purposes of this video, we also assume that you have already downloaded Spectrum onto your computer. So the first thing we're going to do is pull up the software and direct yourselves to the Tool tab and select More Tools. And you'll see we have a number of tools available to us, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to focus on missed opportunities. We're going to choose a country, so we're going to select Burkina Faso. You'll see that you have the option of entering custom data or of selecting the default data. If you have more recent data, if you have data that you have more trust in for whatever reason, or just data that you would like to use, you always have the option, as in many other places in LIST, to select custom data. But for the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to focus on default data. So we select OK and give it a few minutes, well, a few seconds to think. And we get this graph that pops up. You'll see the title is the total additional deaths prevented. So that corresponds to the total number of lives saved in the country in the year. This video is recorded in 2018, which is why this data here is 2019. So just as a reminder, the missed opportunity tool scales up all of the interventions to 90% in the following year. So because once again, we're in 2018, the following year for us at the time of this video is 2019. You'll notice here this legend. So we have our stillbirth, our lives saved, our stillbirth lives saved, our neonatal lives, our children under 5, and our maternal in blue, green, and purple, respectively. Importantly, this is a visualization of what would happen if each individual intervention was scaled up. It's very important to conceptualize that this, in no situation, in no case, should these bars be summed, because a lot of these interventions would interact with one another and reduce lives saved upstream, and therefore have less lives to save at a lower by subsequent interventions. Therefore, it's really important to conceptually understand that this is a visualization of each individual intervention being scaled up without the other ones changing in any way, shape, or form. So never sum the bars up. So this first graph is all of the interventions visualized at once. If we're interested more in different intervention types, I can deselect all. And for example, if I'm interested only in periconceptual interventions, once I select that, you'll notice that only the periconceptual interventions appear on my graph. If I want to know more about what exactly these bars represent, I can click on them, and you'll see this was a completely shaded purple bar. Therefore, the outcome that we're looking at is maternal death. So all of these will be maternal deaths, or rather maternal lives saved. The name of the intervention, so it's down here underneath the bar, but you'll also get it on this pop-up. You'll have the delivery point, so when in the continuum of care would this intervention be delivered? It would be for abortion, which makes sense because it's safe abortion services. What type of death? So what cause-specific death is being averted here? In this case, it's the abortion deaths, which makes sense because this is an intervention for abortion. You'll get here the number of deaths prevented. So 242 is what would happen. And here you'll see the baseline coverage was 0. So currently in Burkina Faso, safe abortion services is not an intervention that's being implemented. So we're going from a baseline coverage of 0 all the way to the scale-up target of 90%, which is how the missed opportunity tools operate. So if I bring all of my interventions back, I can take a look then at the specific mortalities. So if I want to look at diarrhea-focused interventions, I can select this and have all of my diarrhea interventions, all of the interventions that have an impact on diarrhea deaths visualized here. For bars that have more than one color, the data that comes up when I select this will only refer to the portion of the bar that I clicked on. So in this case, I had clicked on the purple, which is, we'll remember, maternal. And so I can see that my outcome is only focused on maternal. Put it all back. By default, the contraceptive prevalence data is not included. So if all of the unmet need for contraception was met, then we get one additional bar that shows up. And this represents all of the lives that would have been saved if all the unmet need for family planning had been met. So the coverage for family planning interventions reached, meeting the entirety of the family planning need in the country. So this is a very helpful tool for quickly identifying where the bigger gaps are. So where I have the potential to have the highest impact if I was to focus my efforts on these specific interventions. There are, however, a number of caveats to this. So just by looking at this graph, while it is very informative and has a very useful role to play, it's important to remember that the graph by itself does not indicate why the bars are so high or so low. So in some cases, it's not that the intervention is either doesn't have a high effectiveness or is very effective. It could just be that the coverage of the intervention in that country is very low. For example, when we saw the example of interventions that are not being implemented. So if we're going from 0 to 90% in 1 year, then that will be a higher impact than scaling up interventions that are already very, very high, such as typically vaccinations. That coverage, changing that coverage won't have that much of an impact because the coverage is already so high. So once again, this is a very informative tool to orient decisions making, but then a little bit more work needs to be done to understand really what these bars represent and where they're coming from. So if you do want to do a little bit more of that digging and you want to manipulate the numbers, you have two options here. So if you right click, you can copy the chart so that the image will just copy this image onto your computer. But if you want to manipulate the data, you can also download that data directly onto your computer with copy chart data. So far, we've only been talking about lives that could have been saved, but missed opportunities actually has a second functionality. We can also look at the cases of stunting averted. So for our nutrition outcomes, this would be the focus, and it works in exactly the same way. If we open any of these bars, we can see the name of our intervention, where it's being delivered, the number of cases of stunting rather than mortality that are averted. baseline coverage. So in this case, this is an intervention that's already being implemented. It just has a very low coverage rate. And then we have our scale-up target, which is of 90%, as it will be for all of these interventions, because that is the concept of missed opportunities tool. So that sums up missed opportunities. As mentioned, it's a very good visualization tool. It's a good starting point to inform how to use lists further down the road and how to orient some of the modeling you can do with the full list tool. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that it has been helpful to you.